Synaptic transmission is a very complex process. It involves many types of proteins. In this video, I am going to tell you what is synaptic transmission, what are its types, and how it happens. Hey everyone, welcome back to HM Learnings. I am Harshita, the creator of HM Learnings, where students come to clear their concept and to get the study material. Make sure that you have subscribed my channel. You can also follow HM Learnings on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for regular updates. And now all our content is also available on our website known as SlideShare. You can easily download and clip our slides on that website. A very important announcement which can make you happy is that we are starting online live classes for the physiology. You can ask me anything on that class related to physiology. It will be live session. To know more, you can contact us on this email ID, and you can also comment and direct message us on the Facebook, Instagram and Twitter to know more. So now we will start that what is synaptic transmission. Synaptic transmission is basically a process in which the impulses, or you can say the information, is being traveling from one cell to another cell. Or you can say it is basically a process which is happening across the synapse, and it is transmission of the impulses from one cell to the another cell. This process is called as the synaptic transmission. There are two ways of the synaptic transmission. They could be electrical transmission or they could be chemical transmission. If there is an electrical synapse, there will be electrical neurotransmission. If there is chemical synapse, there will be chemical neurotransmission. So we will see one by one what is electrical synapse and what is chemical transmission. Okay, first we will look at electrical transmission. So in the electrical synapse, the membranes of the pre and the postsynaptic cell, they come close together and they actually form a gap junctions. Through this gap junctions, the ions can travel from one, that is from the presynaptic terminal to the postsynaptic terminal. So these gap junctions are actually the low resistance bridges which allows the ions to pass very easily from one cell to the another cell. It is a very simple process which doesn't involve so many steps. Okay? Whereas when we look at the chemical neurotransmission, we can see that this is actually a very complex process which involves lot of steps. In this, what is happening is that the neurotransmitters are actually synthesized in the presynaptic neuron, and then they are released from the presynaptic neuron when the signal came. Then this neurotransmitter will bind to the neuron it will bind to the receptor which is located on the postsynaptic neuron. So you can see it is a very complex process which involves lot of steps and it involves lot of proteins. Okay, so in this video we are going to see one by one all these steps. Okay, this is the diagram which is showing all the steps which are happening in the chemical neurotransmission. Okay, this diagram shows the acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter. In this, you can see first there is the synthesis of the acetylcholine, and then this acetylcholine is actually stored inside a vesicle, and when an action potential arrives, there is release of this acetylcholine in the synapse, and then there will be binding of the acetylcholine to the receptor present on the postsynaptic neuron. So we will see in this video that what are these steps and how they actually happens. Okay, one by one we will look, but before that we will look at the electrical versus chemical neurotransmission. Means the difference between the electrical and the chemical transmission, or you can say the difference between the electrical and the chemical synapse. Okay, electrical neurotransmission, we see that it is happening by the help of gap junctions, whereas the chemical neurotransmission happens by the way of the neurotransmitters. Electrical neurotransmission is actually bidirectional, means that the impulse can travel from the pre-synaptic neuron to the post-synaptic neuron and vice versa, means it can also go from the post-synaptic to the pre-synaptic neuron. But in the chemical neurotransmission, it is only unidirectional, that is from the pre-synaptic to the post-synaptic. Why? Because neurotransmitters are actually present only in the presynaptic neuron, not in the postsynaptic neuron. So that's why they will be always unidirectional transmission from pre to postsynaptic neuron. Then rapid impulse transmission happens in the electrical neurotransmission. Why? Because it involves a single step. Okay, it is not a complex process, it is a very simple process. But neurotransmission, chemical neurotransmission involves lot of steps, and that's why it is really time consuming. Second is another difference is the synaptic plasticity. Synaptic plasticity is actually absent in the electrical neurotransmission. Why? Because it is possible only in the chemical neurotransmission. It is basically a process which involves a strengthening or weakening of the synaptic transmission. So that can only happen in the chemical neurotransmission, and it forms the basis of so much higher processes like the learning, memory, and as well as for a phenomena called as a phantom limb pain. Another thing is that the signal modification means that the strength of the signal can be modified only in the chemical neurotransmission, because electrical transmission doesn't have anything to do. It is a very simple process. It can't be regulated, it can't be changed. But in chemical neurotransmission, there are so many steps at which we can actually regulate the neurotransmission. Like we can regulate the amount, we can change the amount of the neurotransmitter which is being secreted, okay, by simply regulating the amount of the calcium entering inside the presynaptic neuron. So this is just an example, okay, how we can change the strength of the signal in the case of the chemical neurotransmission. When we look the properties of the synapse in the coming video, I will explain you in more detail that how it happens, okay. Now we are just going to see that what are the steps of the chemical neurotransmission and the details regarding that. So now we move on to the first step of the chemical neurotransmission, which is the synthesis of neurotransmitters and the neuropeptides. So neurotransmitters like the acetylcholine, GABA, glutamate, norepinephrine, epinephrine, these all are synthesized in the nerve endings. The enzymes which are responsible for the synthesis of all these neurotransmitters are located in the nerve endings, and also mitochondria are present in the nerve endings because it will help, or you can say it will provide the ATP required for the synthesis of these neurotransmitters. Then the another type of the neurotransmitter which is being used is a neuropeptide like substance B, enkephalin and the vasopressin. So as they are neuropeptides, they will require the genetic material to get synthesized, and we know that the genetic material will be present, that is the DNA will be present in the nerve cell body. So it's obvious that the neuropeptides will be synthesized in the nerve cell body. So always remember, the neuropeptides will be synthesized in the nerve endings, whereas the neuropeptides will be synthesized in the nerve cell body, okay. Now after their synthesis, the second step in the process of the neurotransmission is the storage, okay. Now they are synthesized, they have to be stored, and they are stored in the vesicles. Vesicles are nothing but they are the membrane enclosed organelles which store the neurotransmitters as well as the neuropeptides. Now the neurotransmitters are being they are being stored in the small clear and the small dense core vesicles, okay, whereas the neuropeptides, they are stored in the large vesicles. So if you remember in the last video, I have mentioned the 3 types of the synaptic vesicles. So if you haven't watched that video, I will share the link in I button and in description box. You can go and watch that video. In that I have shared that how there are 3 types of synaptic vesicles and what are these types and what the neurotransmitter or the what neuropeptide they contain, okay. So vesicles, again, they are synthesized in the nerve cell body. The vesicle I said that vesicle is a membrane enclosed organelle, so it has proteins also in the vesicular membrane. So they are also synthesized in the nerve cell body. Okay, so after being synthesized in the nerve cell body, they are transported by the axonal transport from the nerve cell body to the axon terminal. Okay, and vesicles are also being recycled in the nerve ending, means they are synthesized also and they are being recycled also at the same time. Okay, then before moving on to the next step of the neurotransmission, that is the release of the neurotransmitter, we need to understand that what are the different synaptic vesicle proteins, means what are the different proteins which are present on the vesicular membrane, because it will really help us to understand the release of neurotransmitter step and to understand the fusion step. Okay, so first protein which is present on the synaptic vesicle membrane is the proton transporter. Okay, so this proton transporter is actually an ATPase which uses the ATP. Okay, it breaks down the ATP into the inorganic phosphate and the ADP and use that energy to transport the H+ ion from the cytoplasm inside the vesicle lumen. Now you can understand that ATP is consumed here because the transport of the H+ ion must be happening against the concentration gradient, means there will be lower cytoplasmic H+ concentration and there will be higher H+ ion concentration in the vesicle lumen. That's why it requires a breakdown of the ATP. Okay, now this proton transporter actually facilitates the action of the another protein located on the synaptic vesicle membrane, that is the vesicular associated transporter. So this vesicular associated transporter actually uptakes the neurotransmitter from the exoplasm into the vesicle lumen, okay, in exchange of hydrogen efflux. Okay, means that the hydrogen ion is going out of the vesicle lumen into the exoplasm, and on the same hand the neurotransmitter is being transported inside the vesicle lumen, and that is, it is an antiporter. Okay, then we move on to the next type of the protein located on the vesicular membrane is the synapsin. So synapsin, what is the function of the synapsin? It actually attach the synaptic vesicle with the cytoskeleton. Okay, the synaptic vesicles are not in air. Okay, they have to be attached to the cytoplasm, and they are being attached by the help of this synapsin because it will attach the vesicle with the cytoskeleton with the actin. Okay, the next type of the protein which is found on the vesicular membrane is the synaptobrephine. Synaptobrephine is basically a component of the Snare complex, and we are going to see the Snare complex in the coming slides. It facilitates the vesicle fusion, which is one of the steps in the release of the neurotransmitters. And then there is another protein called as the synaptotagmin. Synaptotagmin has actually a calcium sensor domain, and again it will facilitate the fusion. So how it gonna facilitate the fusion, we will going to see in the coming slides. RAP3 is a GTP binding protein, and it has a role in vesicle targeting. It has a role in moving the vesicle towards the active zone and from the active zone towards the presynaptic membrane for its fusion. Okay, so with this we will move on to the next step, the neurotransmission, with the which is the release of the neurotransmitter. Okay, so to understand that, I have made a schematic diagram so that you can understand the process, that how it is happening. Okay, so for the release of the neurotransmitter, the first step, which is very important, is arrival of the action potential at the presynaptic neuron. So once there is arrival of the action potential at the presynaptic axon terminal, it will be sensed by the membrane. The change in the voltage will be sensed by the membrane, and it will cause the opening of the voltage gated calcium channel. Okay, so as a result, what will happen? The calcium will start moving inside the presynaptic axon terminal. So you can also see in this diagram, apart from this calcium part, you can also see that some of the vesicles which are containing the neurotransmitters are actually lying outside the active zone, and some of the vesicles which are which are having the neurotransmitter, they are present inside the active zone. Okay, so there is distribution of the vesicles like that. So on arrival, that is on the first influx of the calcium ions inside the axon terminal, what happens is that there will be movement of the vesicle. Okay, the synaptic vesicles which are present outside the active zone, they will start moving towards the active zone. Okay, and the vesicles which are already present in the active zone, they will start moving towards the release sites. Okay, so you can understand how it is happening. Now, how the calcium causes the movement of the vesicle, that is a question. That there is a calcium influx, and after the calcium influx there is a movement of the synaptic vesicle towards the presynaptic vesicle. So how it is possible? Okay, so we have studied in the previous slide that there is one protein called as a synapsin. So the function of the synapsin is that to attach the synaptic vesicle with the cytoskeleton, with the actin. But if the synaptic vesicle wants to move, it has to release from that actin cage. Okay, it has to release from the actin cage, and for that calcium is important. Okay, so how it happens? When the calcium enters inside the presynaptic neuron, it actually causes the activation of a protein called as the calmodulin. Now this calmodulin will activate a protein kinase which is called as a protein kinase 2. Okay, now this protein kinase will actually cause the dephosphorylation of the synapsin. So as there is dephosphorylation of synapsin, what will happen? The synapsin will lose its affinity and it will lose the actin. Okay, it will detach from the actin. It will lose its affinity for the actin. So as a result, the synaptic vesicle will become free from the actin cage, will become free from the cytoskeleton, and now it can mobilize. Okay, so the first step is there will be influx of the calcium ion. The calcium will cause the activation of the calmodulin and the activation of protein kinase 2, which will dephosphorylate the synapsin. Synapsin will release its binding from the actin and cause the movement of the synaptic vesicles. Okay, so after this, what will happen? There will be a process called as a dogging. So what is dogging? The vesicles which has been moved from the active zone. Okay, these vesicles which are present outside the active zone, they are moving towards the active zone, but the vesicles which are in the active zone, they are moving towards the release sites on the arrival of the first calcium ions. Okay, or you can say on the first influx of the calcium ions. So these vesicles will move towards the release sites. So this process, which is called as a dogging, is basically the re-equipment of the vesicles on the release site, and these vesicles are from where they came from the active zone. Okay, after being dogged, there is another process which is called as the priming. So what happens in the priming? Priming is a process which involves the alignment of the vesicle membrane with the presynaptic membrane. It basically involves the partial snare complex formation. Now what is snare complex? We will going to see in the coming slide. After priming, what will happen? The vesicle will be stopped at this level. Okay, now the vesicles are actually in the fusion ready state. Okay, they are in the fusion ready state, but they are not going to form a fusion pore. Why? Because it will require the second influx of calcium. These are the, again you can say, these are the voltage gated calcium channels which are actually clustered in the active zone. What is active zone? I already mentioned in the previous video, so please go and watch that video to understand what is active zone. In that video, I mentioned that active zone contains lot of calcium channels. So here there is lot of calcium channels. So when there is again opening of the voltage gated calcium channel, there will be calcium influx. Okay, there will be calcium influx, and then it will cause the final fusion step. Okay, so how it is possible? It is possible because actually before the calcium influx, at this priming step there is partial snare complex formation, but after the arrival of the calcium in the second influx of the calcium ions, there is complete fusion process happens because now there is complete snare complex formation. Okay, so what is this also we are going to see in the coming slide of snare formation, that what is partial snare formation and what is complete snare formation. Okay, and how the calcium leads to the final fusion process, we are also going to see that in few minutes. Okay, now this vesicles, after being released the contents in the synaptic vesicle, synaptic cleft, they undergo the recycling process. So the synaptic vesicles are also coming from the cell body, which are being synthesized in the nerve cell, and the vesicles are also being recycled. Okay, so these are the steps of the release of neurotransmitter. This is a thing which I have already told you, that what happens with the first influx of calcium ions and what happens on the second influx of calcium ions. Okay, and the second influx of the calcium ions, again this step will be repeated. Which step? The vesicles which are here will move towards the active zone, and the vesicles which are here will move towards the dogging and priming. Okay, and this cycle will continue. These are the steps already I have mentioned you, the steps of release of neurotransmitter. Then the priming, which involves a partial snare complex formation, and after that the vesicles will be in fusion ready state. On the second influx of calcium ions, they will be complete snare complex formation. Now, what is snare complex formation? SNARE stands for soluble NSF attachment protein receptor, or the SNAP receptor. It is basically a large family of the proteins which mediates the vesicle fusion, and there are lot of proteins which mediates the vesicle fusion, but the proteins which mediate the vesicle fusion in the case of the neurotransmitter release, they are discovered yet. Okay, so the SNARE proteins which mediates the neurotransmitter release are the synaptobrephrin, syntaxin, and the synaptosomal associated protein of 25 kilo domain. So the SNARE protein which is present on the vesicle membrane is called as the V-SNARE, and it is synaptobrephrin. And the vesicle, or you can say the SNARE component which is present on the target membrane or on the presynaptic membrane, is the SNAP25 and the syntaxin. So what they do, you can see in this diagram. So synaptobrephrin is present in this dark blue color, which is present on the vesicular membrane. Okay, and on the presynaptic membrane there is SNAP25, which is in the green color, and the syntaxin, which is in the red color. So they are basically forming what? They are forming a coiled domain. They are coiling with each other, and this coiling will be four-stranded. How it is four-stranded? One strand will be formed by the synaptobrephrin, second strand will be formed by the syntaxin, and two strands will be formed by the SNAP25. So this is a four-strand coil domain which will coil with each other, and after that they will be zipping. Okay, so after this snipping process, there will be formation of a fusion pore. So after the through this fusion pore, all the contents of the synaptic vesicle will be released in the synaptic cleft, and then they will be again reformed. They will be separated from each other. So this is called as a SNARE complex formation. So what is SNARE complex formation? It is basically important for the vesicle fusion. For the vesicle fusion, it is important that the two phospholipids, the two lipid bilayers, the two membranes, they have to fuse with each other, and that fusion is facilitated by the presence of these SNARE proteins, which forms a tight, reversible, four-stranded coil domain with each other, and then they form a fusion pore. Okay. Now, what is this partial and complete? I said na, in the priming there is partial SNARE complex formation, but in the case of the fusion, on the second influx of the calcium ion, there is complete SNARE complex formation. So partial SNARE complex formation involves an inhibitor called as a complexin. So what happens during priming? Okay, I'll just mention the previous slide. So what happens during priming? With the SNARE complex, there will be another protein called as the complexin. Okay, the complexin is basically an inhibitor. Okay, but on the second influx of the calcium ion, there is another protein which is called as the synaptotagmin. Synaptotagmin is again a protein present on the vesicular membrane, and it has a calcium sensing domain. Okay, so it will sense calcium, and what it will do, it will actually remove the complexin from the snare complex. So once this complexin will be removed from the snare complex, there will be complete snare complex formation, and this will facilitate the fusion pore formation and the release of the neurotransmitters. I hope this is clear for you. This is a very complex topic, but if you learn it and if you watch, I would say it will, if you learn it and if you watch it clearly and with the concentration, I think it will be very easy for you. Okay, so after this there are two types of the fusion. First type of fusion is called as a incomplete fusion. What is incomplete fusion? In the incomplete fusion, basically the vesicle came, it will form a small pore and it will release all its content through the small pore. Okay, and then that small pore will be closed. Okay, so this is called as the kiss and run discharge. Okay, but in the case of the complete fusion, what is happening, the entire vesicle gets flattened on the membrane space. Okay, and then it will be taken up by the Catherine mediated endocytosis. We are going to see in the coming slide that what is Catherine mediated endocytosis. Okay, so now we came to the next topic, which is the recycling of the synaptic vesicle, also called as the exoendocytic cycle. So in this case, in this diagram, there is recycling of the vesicle which is doing the complete fusion. Okay, and in this diagram there is recycling of the vesicle which is doing the kiss and run discharge. So in the case of the kiss and run discharge, what is happening, there is reclosing of that vesicle, and that vesicle will again reloaded with the neurotransmitter. But in the case of the vesicle which do complete fusion, there will be Catherine mediated endocytosis. How it happens? After complete fusion, there will be reformation of the vesicle. That means there will be pinching of the presynaptic cell membrane and there will be formation of a new vesicle. After formation, there will be the Catherine coat will be removed. Okay, and now this newly formed vesicle will fuse with the early endosome, and after fusion with the early endosome, it will burn off the early endosome to form a new vesicle, and then there will be reloading of the vesicle with the neurotransmitter, and after that it will be again available outside the active zone or inside the active zone for the release. Okay, for the release of the neurotransmitter. So there are two ways of recycling depending upon the type of the fusion. If there is complete fusion, there will be Catherine mediated endocytosis, then there will be removal of the Catherine coat, then the vesicle will fuse with the early endosome, and then there is a new vesicle formation formed from the budding of endosome. After this, there will be reloading of the vesicle, and again the vesicle is ready for the release. In the case of the kiss and run discharge, there will be closing of the fusion pore, and hence we have vesicle ready for reloading of the neurotransmitter and for its release. Okay. The third step in the process of chemical neurotransmission is the binding of the neurotransmitter to the postsynaptic receptors. So the binding of the neurotransmitter to the receptor, which can actually generate the electrical activity in the postsynaptic neuron. This electrical activity could be excitatory or it could be inhibitory. Okay, depending upon the ion channel open. Okay, it could be excitatory or it could be inhibitory. Now, what are these types of the different synaptic potentials? We will look in the upcoming video of the properties of synapse. Okay. Then how the action of the released neurotransmitter is terminated. The released neurotransmitter has to be cleared from the synaptic cleft, otherwise the receptor will be in the continuous state of excitation, which can be harmful. There are 3 ways by which the neurotransmitter can be removed from the synaptic cleft. First one is the enzymatic degradation. There could be enzyme in the synaptic cleft which will degrade the neurotransmitter. Then there could be reuptake of the neurotransmitter by the presynaptic neuron, or the last one is diffusion of the neurotransmitter into the surroundings from the synaptic cleft. Okay. So with this we reach at the end of this video. In the coming video I will talk about how the neurotoxins act, what is the property of synapses, and what is action potential. Okay, you can follow HM Learnings on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for regular updates. Our contents are now available on SlideShare website, and also we have started the live online classes. So if you want to enroll in that, you can contact us on our official pages. Till then, keep learning.